record here, all the places, all the things. Okay, we are good to go. Goodness, day 50. I didn't realize it would be exact day, 50 days, but here we are. This is sort of the culmination of our time together. What is it saying? It's not live. It is live. Hold on. Let me check. No, we're good. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Yeah, day 50 of our Healthy for the Holidays series. And we are beyond the holidays, but as you know, we have been focusing on setting goals in your vision for 2022. And I was doing some reflecting this morning on what we've done together over the last 50 days. I've gotten a lot of questions about, will these be taken down and can I rewatch them? As of right now, I'm going to keep them exactly where they are. They're in 3 different places. I did all this over the last 50 days. They are here on Facebook. They are on my YouTube channel, which by the way is so funny, my YouTube channel. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Okay, they're on Facebook, they're on my YouTube channel, they're on the Mighty Network. So if you don't like Facebook, you can find them on Mighty Network or YouTube. If you're on Facebook, but just having trouble, finding where they are or getting them in order, which Facebook does weird things, you can also find them in those other 2 places. And right now, I'm just going to keep them there. I don't see any reason really to take them down. So my plan is just to keep them there at this point. So that's the answer to that question. I don't intend to take them down. But today, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've done. So let me just review for you and kind of tell you what we've done and where everything is and how it all fits together, because whether or not you saw the progression of things and whether or not you saw it as a sort of system or theoretical model, I did. And I'm going to sort of tell you and walk you through what we just did. So obviously we started right before Halloween. And I talked a little bit about sort of Halloween candy and how truly Halloween kind of kicks off this holiday season, right? And that's where all the candy pushing starts and all the sugar starts and all of that stuff, right? So we talked a little bit about that for the first couple of days, but then we went right into these challenges. So we started with the "Is it worth it?" challenge. And really starting to ask yourself, not can I or can't I eat this at all, but does it feel worth it to me? Is it even that good? If so, how much of it do I want, right? Then week 2, we went into how do I want to feel? Again, not can I have this or can't I have this? We go into this exploration of how do I want to feel in my body, in my emotions, in my mind? What type of person do I want to be? How does that feel? We went into an exploration of that. Then we went into a sugar detox after we did a little bit of pre-work into that explanation. We did a sugar detox done differently. And we did a whole explanation about it wasn't cutting out the sugar. It wasn't, I can't have the sugar or I'm not allowed to have the sugar. It became, is it in line with how I want to feel? Does it feel worth it to me to engage in those types of behaviors? How does it feel to just for today decide that that's not serving me? And then how does it feel the next day to decide that? So I called it sugar detox done differently. And what do we notice about after I haven't had sugar for a few days? What feels different? What can I notice about my relationship with sugar? And many of you talked about how, for the first few days, we had these big urges and then they started to dissipate and our mind became clearer about, do I really want this? Does it really serve me? I don't like how I feel afterward, that type of thing. So we did kind of a mini detox. Then we went into a gratitude practice and I explained gratitude from a different place, from a brain chemistry perspective and how our brain will start searching for the things to be grateful for when we practice doing that. Then we went into what daily stillness practice looks like and how to be still and why that's important from a sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system standpoint, why those things are important. Then we went into 2 weeks of tiny habits. Yesterday, I couldn't remember what they were, but now they are week 6 and 7. We went into tiny habits and how to incorporate that. So for the first 5 weeks, I introduced a lot of tools. Is it worth it? Sugar detox. How do I want to feel? Daily stillness, gratitude. And then tiny habits comes in and says, all right, well, how do I make these things habitual in my life? How do I actually put these things as a routine and do these things regularly? So we did a couple of weeks of tiny habits, and I walked you through tiny habits coaching, right? We did that for a couple of weeks. Then we had a little bit of, break in and out because it was the holidays for me. Celebrated Christmas with my family, and I was sort of in and out, appreciating you all and being there for you all. And just some week 8 really was, and part of week 9 was really just reflection and connection and gratitude for all of you. Then we went into reflection week. So week 9, I gave you some journal prompts and offered you reflection for the year and why we do that and why that's important. And then here we are, week 10, in setting goals for the new year. So that's kind of the progression of what we did in the last couple of months. And if you are open to it, there is an opportunity to revisit the information now that you know what it is and where it lands and sort of the structure of these. None of these videos were longer than, I think the longest one I did was about 30 minutes, but they're meant to be snippets that build on each other, that help you start to rewire this relationship with yourself and with food. There's an opportunity for you to revisit this and come back to this information and let it sort of sink in. So I say that because so many of you are shifters. I call it shifters, obviously, my program, The Shift. Some of you are shifters, a lot of you are new. And if you know my work and material, here's what I want to say. In the very first module of The Shift, actually, I think it's the welcome video, I teach this concept that there is a huge difference between knowledge and implementation. That in our culture right now, we have a crisis of information where there is so much information out there. There are books, there are podcasts, there are courses, there are self-led courses, there are small group courses like mine. We are in the age of information, right? And that is good in many ways because it gives us access to a lot of information easier than we've ever had access to. But in many ways, if we don't understand the way that the brain learns and interprets information, it works against us. And you may have found yourself in this place of, well, I read that book and read that book and read that book and did this course and listened to that podcast and it was really great. And now I'm even more confused than ever, right? Because the more information we take in externally and put on top of us, the more confusing it can feel, partially because we're getting conflicting information, but also because if you don't understand the way your brain works, what you don't realize is that more than 80% of what you learn from a book or a podcast or a course gets pruned away if you don't integrate it, if you don't use it in order to change something and make something different in your life. It will prune away. It prunes away for a good reason, because the brain doesn't have the capacity to store all of that information. And so, for some of you who are on my webinar yesterday, for some of you who are in my Shift course, you'll understand this concept about, the brain had to evolve to organize information. So it uses its reticular activating system to organize information according to what you tell it it's important. And if you get interested in a concept, right, and you read a book and you listen to the book, and you don't actually use any of the concepts, you don't let it drop in, you don't change anything, you don't do anything differently, the brain says, oh, well, that was interesting information, but it's not super useful to me, and it prunes it away. Meaning you don't recall it, you don't actively use it, it's not being used in your life to change you in any way. There is a system, a path to utilizing and integrating information, but part of it requires the knowledge of implementation and integration and repetition. We want to listen to things again. And so what a lot of my shifters do is I lay out the information in the course, of course, but then they go back and they listen to the modules. There's a membership after after the shift is over, and we do book club calls and we do coaching calls to remind ourselves of the information that we found useful so that we can integrate and we can start to implement. And as soon as you integrate and you start to become a new person, then you can build on top of that, because it has actually, it's integrated into the fiber of who you are. You've become someone new. You've used that information. You've integrated that information to become someone new. So where am I going with all of this? For those of you who are either, not joining the shift or not able to, it doesn't matter. These videos are a way for you to revisit, to implement and integrate the information and remind yourself of who you want to be. Because what I can promise you is, even if you loved these videos, if you stop here, most of this information will be pruned away unless you have used it, unless you are integrating it, unless you are implementing it in your life. I know that these videos will be pruned away. That's the way the brain works. So I will leave them up for you. My hope is that you will continue to revisit them and go back to them. And here's one other thing I will say is that some of my favorite books, some of my most life-changing books, I have read multiple times. My shifters will know that, because I constantly quote and repeat and go back to them. It doesn't mean I'm not open to other books, but I understand and know that every time I read the book, because I have become somebody different, I get new information. The information that has already landed and integrated into my body gets reinforced, and it makes room for new information. And so I'll listen to the book and swear that they never said that the first time around. But that's not true. It's just that I wasn't ready for all of that information at the time. And as I implement and integrate, now when I read the book again, more information, different information is coming to me. And so this is the beauty of how information can work, is if you revisit it, if you implement it, if you integrate it, you'll actually get more from it. It can be a sort of living, breathing, growing mechanism to help you change. So for those of you who have read my book and you'll tell me you've read it multiple times, that's fantastic, because you'll get, I like to describe it like this, you'll get who you are when you read it the first time. And then hopefully you've integrated and changed. And then you'll get who you are when you read it the second time. And then you'll get who you are when you read it the third time. The same thing goes for the shift course. The same thing goes for these modules, the Jumpstart program, any of my programs that you've done. If you revisit the information, you will get who you are at each level of that revisit. So don't stop here. My invitation to you is, don't stop here and go looking for the next thing. Revisit what you have. And even if it's not my stuff, if there's another book that you love, or another person that you love, or another program that you love, go revisit what you have from a new place, from a place of evolution and expansion of who you are now. Before I did work with BJ Fogg in Tiny Habits this year, I read his book 4 times. And I'm reading it again. I just did a presentation for a pretty large fitness corporation on Tiny Habits, and I read it again. And every time I do it, I'm learning and integrating new information. And so that doesn't mean you have to do that with all of your books, but the ones you really love and the people you really connect with, keep going back to the information to integrate at a different level of who you are. Okay, that's my message for you today. You guys, the shift is open, and I am loving the group that we have forming so far. It's incredible. It makes me so excited. I've talked to many of you. I want to talk to many more of you. I will keep posting in here. We start next Saturday. So if you are tired of hearing about the shift, don't worry. I'll go a little bit more quiet on that going forward. On Monday of next week, what's today, the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Okay, on the 10th, I will be doing a specific webinar on the shift. So come to that, live here on the shift. You can ask me any questions you want. I'm happy to chat through any questions that you have on it. I will be doing it. So look for the event that'll come on Monday. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe Mondays are also going to be the day that I do the Facebook Lives. I know for sure I will be going live next Monday. I'll put the event in. I'm doing all of my scheduling and timing today. So you'll see those pop up today. I'll put links in here to book a call with me about the shift. I'll put links in here to actually just sign up if you know you want to do the shift. And honestly, no question is too big or too small about whether or not the shift is right for you, because people who know me understand I don't just want to get anybody in the program. I want people who are ready and dedicated and for whom I know that the shift will be beneficial for. I don't want anybody to just come in. I want it to be useful for you. I want you to transform with it. So it's more than just a throw it out there and hope everybody signs up. It is very much what I'm calling in are people for whom it can be really transformative. So that being said, there's no question that's too big or too small to ask to see if it's the right fit for you. And it may just not be the right time, you know? So I'll put those links up here for you. And I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for your dedication to this series. I mean, you know, Tanya's been with me, I think every video in here in Zoom. It's amazing what you've done. And I'm curious, actually, Tanya, if you know, write me or let me know or say in the chat what you have gotten out of, you know, you went through the shift with me and also have been here on quite literally almost every video. How does this information land for you? What has changed for you? Let us know. But thank you, everyone, for letting me guide you on this journey, being a part of your journey, asking your questions, being with me through all the holidays and fires and craziness. And I've just so appreciated supporting you over this time, and we'll continue to do so. Like I said, we'll go every week. We'll do a topic in a live like this. I've got some cool stuff planned for you all for the year. And I'm just wishing all of you a healthy and happy and expansive and joy-filled 2022. All right, everybody, let me take one check and see, make sure I don't miss any comments here. We're good there. All right, I will see you all next week.